All right, let's go to Patrice Lee Unwuka, of course, the Independent Women's Forum senior fellow. Patrice, what did you make of that? Republicans are harnessing that as, political gold, saying that it's going to resonate with those who've gotten tax cuts or bonuses from their companies. Others are saying that the speaker, former speaker, is exactly right, that this was disproportionately weighted, the tax cut, to the wealthy and corporations. You say what?
I say she was choking on her crumbs comment for good reason, because it's not entirely true. Frankly, it's not true at all. It's why the Washington Post gave her 2 Pinocchios for making misleading comments about who are the biggest earners or winners from the tax cuts and when any sort of tax increases go into play. She's conflating 2025, 2027 with 2018. Today, we've seen, the Tax Policy Center found that 80% of tax earners have gotten a tax cut as a result. She's speaking as though it's when the tax cuts actually expire on the individual side. So she's being disingenuous, and it's a political ploy to get people upset and to feed into the class warfare rhetoric.
All I know is that when Barack Obama was president, and of course there were those checks that went out for $40. Credits, if you will. It was a big deal then, and it was. $40 in someone's pocket was deemed better than the government's pocket. So why is it different this time when people are potentially getting a lot more?
Well, sadly, it's different because we have a different president, and a president who is a Republican. I mean, I was really touched by this young man who talked about his personal experience, his family business, what it meant both to the workers who are new hires, as well as to the fact that he's at Georgetown asking that question because of the tax cuts. And, we've looked at social media where people have said, not crumbs, use that hashtag to really tell the story of what an extra $100 in their paycheck means for them, an extra $25. As a woman, a lot of women are breadwinners, the primary breadwinners in their family, and they understand that these tax cuts are not just fictitious crumbs or something left for the peasants, as Nancy Pelosi is suggesting, but they're actually real economic relief that American families are finally getting to experience.
You might be right about Patrice, and again, polls can be very, very wrong, so I posit that before I ask you this, that she and Democrats in general seem to be winning that battle of are these tax cuts good or not when that is advanced, because it seems that is the support for these sort of peaked in the high 40s and never got much better. And I'm wondering if that's a sign that whatever their arguments, they're working.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with how the media has portrayed the tax cuts and the way that they've parsed the data, the way that they've parsed these statistics to make it seem like any sort of earnings are actually going to the top 1%, when in fact, the top earners are still paying a higher share of the income tax burden, and the larger percentage of tax cuts are actually going to middle class families and poorer families who are also getting relief.
And by the way, when this sorts out next year in the high tax states where they're limited what they can write off, those high earners are going to be, they're going to be kicked in the fanny, won't they? Yeah.
They'll be feeling it. I do think, though, that when people start to look at their paychecks and when they start to sit down and say, okay, did this actually affect my family? The answer has to be yes, despite what the headlines may say, despite what some Democrats are pushing as a narrative. And I do hope we see, as Paul Ryan has suggested last week, that the House takes up a bill to extend the individual tax cuts provisions beyond when they expire in 2025, because I think people need to understand, it's not just going to be in a few years that they're going to see this big kind of tax bill coming their way. They're going to continue to enjoy these tax incentives and savings well beyond that time.
By the way, what did you make when I talked to Mitch McConnell last week about that very issue and taking up that measure to make the individual cuts permanent? He was cagey about it. I think his concern seemed to be that it would be a second shot at the apple for some vulnerable Democrats in the Senate to vote for a permanent tax cut, even though they voted against the last one, to improve their election prospects and prevent Republicans from gaining more in the Senate than they might. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think that was interesting. I mean, I understand this is a game of politics, and you're talking about the election cycle this fall, ensuring that Republicans kind of maintain that lead.
Right.
But the better talking point is saying to Americans, hey, we are ensuring that your tax relief sticks around and it's not going to disappear. And that certainty, I think, goes a long way with a lot of people.
Patrice, always good talking to you. Thank you very, very much.
Good to see you, too.